All right, hey church, how you doing? I'm here with Manny, Pacheco. Man, you guys, many of you know the story. If you're new to this story and you're just here for this Sunday, well, you're welcome, because this is a great story that we wanted to share with you, and a real story. These are you see and hear these stories all the time, but man, stories of people who have developed some great faith through some real struggles.
So in 2005, I went blind with diabetic retinopathy, and I was blind for a year until we ended up doing vitrectomies in both eyes, which is a pretty dangerous procedure. I didn't know that at the time, so ignorance is kind of bliss in that sense. But yeah, so my daughter was on Telsey Symphony, and I wasn't able to see her in concert. If I looked down and looked back up, I could see briefly. And so I would sit at the back of the auditorium with binoculars, and I'd look down and look up, and I'd be able to see her in the concerts. At Christmas time, the Telsey Symphony played at the mall, and I stayed on the second floor, because when I looked down, I could see a little bit better. And so I watched her that way and stuff. That was the worst part. And taking away driving and the independence it gives you and stuff, having to rely on other people. That was tough for me.
So we talked about this, I think, in the past, about how now we're at a different place now. I mean, you got the transplant. But share with what are some of the realities that happened between you waiting for the transplant. How many years, and what happened in your life, from that waiting time, that waiting place, I guess.
Well, in 2011, December of 2010, I got put on dialysis. Found out that I had end-stage renal disease. Being on dialysis 3 times a week, 4 hours a day, took up 5 hours basically a day. Did that for 6 years, and in the meantime had a heart attack, and that was devastating to Jen and I. Yeah. We have a little boy that's 1, and here I am laying here and had a heart attack. You know? Scary things, very scary things.
So how does this is the thing that always has, I think, I don't know if it's impressed me, the thing that I look up to you in this situation is that how does your faith become stronger, or how does your relationship with God or your involvement in church, any of those things that typically they don't get stronger sometimes when you go through things. They just don't. I mean, we can read the Bible and see where we see it happen, but when we get some tough news, typically we don't get stronger at times. It's like, but how did it happen for you? Or it seems to me, it sounds like your faith got stronger. You got closer to God through that experience.
Oh, absolutely, and God changed me. In 2005, when I went blind, I told everybody that was around me at that time that I was going to go through this with my eyes wide open, because God was going to teach me something. And I just didn't know what going through this thing was. I didn't know what this was going to be. I thought it was just the eyesight kind of thing, and I knew I was going to get better. I knew I would be able to see again. So, I was good with that. Well, I got through that, and that builds your faith a little bit, And then you get hit again. You get put on dialysis and stuff. But my faith was always there. My relationship with God had never changed and stuff.
So you had good community with a friend who kind of walked through you, or with you through this process. Mark Simpson is his name, not our Mark Simpson, although we love our Mark Simpson. You had your own Mark Simpson, which we all had our own Mark Simpson, but tell me about what that relationship meant to you, having Mark around too.
Well, I've always been a guy that took care of my own stuff, and I wasn't able to do that with the amputation and foot problems I had and stuff, and then with dialysis, not feeling well 3 times a week, and so I have a friend, Mark. We've known each other for almost 30 years, and he was able to come over and help. Told Jen and I that he feels like it's his ministry to help me, and we didn't know what that meant at first and stuff. But what happened was he would come over on Tuesdays and Thursdays when I was not on dialysis, and even on weekends come over and help us do things, help Jen whenever she needed help with certain things around the house and stuff. And so he saw it as his ministry. and give him a call, and he was here in a heartbeat. From mowing the yard to helping me in the shop to take care of things there, running to rent houses with me.
Yeah.
If I happened to be in the hospital and the rent house people called, then he would go take care of that. His brother-in-law is another great friend of mine, Alvin Walbrand, that Alvin would go, we've done flipped houses together, and he would go take care of rental property for me.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
having Mark there, it was his ministry, him giving to me, and we've known each other a long time, and he said that, and he knows me just as well as anybody for that long, and he said that he's seen the things I've done that people haven't seen, and he wanted to do that for me. And so it's just it's amazing to have somebody there that you can count on like that.
Now you got this kidney, all right? We've all, we've walked through this process with you. How many? Couple years? I mean, 3 years it feels like. Literally, we've seen you, get your leg amputated, on a cart. Now you're walking again, and all of this stuff. But now you have the kidney. Now you have the kidney. What now? Like, what? I think my notes is like, what do you want to do with this opportunity now that this is what you prayed for?
I've led probably 4 people to Christ in my lifetime. It's not because I didn't want to, it's because that was the opportunity, because I feel like there's discipleship after that. And but how do you do that? Do you have to be this great orator to do that? You don't. Everybody has their own testimony.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is share your story. And,
I was going to say, what drives you now? I mean, what drives you? Wake up in the morning, you went through this experience, but what do you say? What am I gonna do today? Like, what drives you? What's in your mind there? What's in your heart?
What drives me now is to go to the store and see people and wait for their cues, and then interject and tell them my story and share with them. I mean, that's what drives me now.
We were talking a little bit about this, I think maybe a couple weeks ago, how this experience right here gives you perspective too. And so we're about to start a big time, I call it a super series at the church. I think it's I gave you a book to read, and I think it's a church shifting type of experience when we move from, I think I should do that for the church, or I think I should do that for God, or I could do that for God, or I might do that, to saying I will. But does it take an experience like this to move us from that? That's my wonder, is that does it have to be something this life altering for us to move from those questions or those statements to this? I mean, what do you think about that?
Don't wait for something like this to go worship God. I mean, God didn't wait for something fantastic to come and die for you. God did His part, and you got to do yours. All you got to do is believe in it. And it doesn't take these kind of things to say I will. I will is there something bigger than me? Yes, there is, and it's God, and He came down to serve us, and that's the way we worship God, is to serve.
And you mentioned the cues that we get, not only from each other, but the cues we get from God. To, like, God saying, I am calling you to this now. I'm inspiring. Some people don't like calling. I don't hear the audible voice of God. It's like, okay, well, God inspires us through one another, the God in us, right? And so if people aren't looking or hearing for these cues, isn't that where an issue can be? It's like we have to listen. How are you listening differently now than what maybe you did before this experience?
Well, I think that to hear that still small voice, you need to be quiet. You can't have a life. Okay, this is kind of off topic, but Jen and I decided we're going to make Sundays holy again. We're going to keep the Sabbath holy again because we want to have a quiet, relaxing day in our crazy lives and stuff. If you're running all the time, if you're moving, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're running the kids here, running kids there, how do you get quiet to listen to God? Where does God fit in on that?
Right.
How can you stop and listen to God?
And not off topic at all, because we can't even hear what God's inspiring us to do if we're moving and talking all the time.
Yeah.
You know, if our thing is the most important. So having a day like, you know, Sunday, the Sabbath, whatever, you know, people want to call it, to give away to God, you can't hear what God wants you to do. You know, sometimes it takes something, you know, not that it's saying it for you, it did, but it sounds to me like, yeah, you're hearing from God a lot more.
Absolutely.
You know, so I don't know. It's a good. I love the story. We've gotten to walk through the process. I think a real question is for me is, would you have been okay if God didn't answer your prayer?
To live as Christ, to die as gain. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I have too much to live for. Next 50 is going to be to His glory. You know, and we, you know, going back to what you talked about is about being still and listening to God. I used to tell guys in the jail all the time that, you know, for you and I to have a relationship, if you did all the talking, I wouldn't want to be around you all the time because you wouldn't listen, and vice versa. If I did all the talking, you wouldn't want to be with me, and that's what our relationship with God is.
These are two guys that like to talk.
Right, yeah.
Right.
And so to have a relationship with Christ is just like having a relationship with you. I've got to talk, I've got to listen. Talking is praying, and listening to God is getting to the Word of God.
It's awesome.
And then we got to go share them.
Yeah, it's awesome too, because this series that's coming up, and we're talking a little bit about it now, is just, you will not be able to hear from God if you don't stop and listen. You won't you won't have an I will, I should, or whatever if you're not actually stopping and listening to God. So yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So
a lot of folks at our church know about the amputation.
Mm-hmm. They
know about the kidney. You know, a lot of people didn't know that I went blind for a year, and all the trials of that. And we just shared a little bit about that. I did have a heart attack in 2012, and then the knee replacement this past year and stuff. So I've had several things go on and stuff, and that's all because of type 2 diabetes. And there's 29 million people in America that have type 2 diabetes. I challenge everybody to see if you know, they have somebody that's touched by it, and if that's my place I need to go to share my story to get people to Christ and stuff, that's what I'll do. But don't let it take this long to stop and listen to God. Don't wait till you're in the hospital for 19 days to take some time to listen to God. You know, tell people no.
Yeah.
You know, I can't do that right now, and take your time with God. No becomes real easy, so don't tell everybody no.
Yeah.
But you know, running here, running there, you got to take your time for God.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. We've wanted to share your story. We wanted people to hear your story because it's not all roses, for one, and you lived through this experience for a reason. And I truly believe that your mentality is now, God, I will. Like I'm listening, and the answer will be, I will. So I wanted to share that with you guys, church. Huge series coming up, and starting next week, actually. You will want to be here for the next 9 weeks. It is a super series. We're starting it here in the new year, and it's going to challenge you. It's going to challenge all of us on what we think of about church and our place in church and our relationship with God. So thanks, Manny. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.